Thank you for purchasing the 1620 XLT Countertop Oven. In today's video, we're going to cover a few points that are critical for the use of the oven. We're going to use the operator's manual, which is critical to make sure you get all your steps correct, and you should always refer to the operator's manual above this video in case things do change from time to time. We're going to talk about cleaning the oven, which means disassemble, cleaning, and reassembling the oven to make sure that a correct operation. So we're just going to go through the 1-800 numbers that we have so you can contact J.L.Lennard if you need service or for your preventative maintenance. One of the 1-800 numbers is our general number you can use for service, spare parts or sales support. That'll be on a sticker that is on the piece of equipment. The other one is the after hours 1-800 number. It is 1-800-077-081. We'll put those up on the screen for you so you can use those. Make sure you do use the after hours number for any after hours calls that you have. And the other 1-800 number, which is 1-800-777-440, which will be on your piece of equipment, is for normal business hours. So the first part we're going to go through is how to use the controller. In this, we're going to adjust the temperature, we're going to adjust the time, so you can have the perfect cook quality of your product in your restaurant or facility. To turn the oven on, we press and hold the on button and then enter. To adjust the temperature, press and hold the temperature button until the icon flashes. Use the arrow up or down to get to your set point required. Lock it in with the enter button. For the time, press and hold the time button till it flashes, up or down with the arrows. To the set time required, hit enter to lock that. Right, so now we're going to show you how to take apart the 1620 countertop. We're going to do a step-by-step. It's all laid out perfectly in your manual. Again, we recommend to follow that manual that came with your piece of equipment to make sure it's up to date with the equipment that you've purchased. We're going to follow the ops manual when we do the disassembling of the oven. Now the first step is to take the crumb trays off the oven and any pan stops that we have and anything on the exterior of the oven. So we'll start with that first. We're going to start with the pan stop. That's simply lift to remove. That could go off to the sink to be washed. The crumb trays are easily removed as well. Making sure they're not hot. If they are, use safety gloves, heat gloves. So we lift and remove the crumb tray. And that goes off to the sink to be washed as well. These panels on the end can be raised or lowered to make sure that you reduce the amount of heat loss out of your ovens. They do get quite dirty, so please make sure you remove those daily by removing the thumb screws. Simply going to remove the thumb screws. Again, making sure that the oven is not hot. If it is hot, please ensure you use heat gloves. And take that off to the wash sink as well. Now make sure you do not lose the thumb screws. Use like in the ops manual, it now says to remove the front cool skin. Now the cool skin helps protect your staff from getting any burns. It's a fantastic idea. It just clips on the front, easily removed, can be taken off to the sink to be washed. Let's do that. Then we're going to remove the entire front of the oven. And that gives us the ability to take the conveyor out and get complete access to the cavity of the XLT oven. Lift it out at the bottom, simply lift, and we'll take that off to the sink. So the next stage, we're going to take these 4 locking bolts in, locking nuts in. Quite simple. Undo those. Just fast forward this. Yeah, so we're going to fast forward here. Again, we don't recommend to take the front off when the oven is hot. If it is hot, please use safety gloves. You can take the entire front of this oven. It does have a little section at the bottom which helps rest on the bottom of the oven to position it correctly for reassembly later. Now this particular part can't be put in the sink. This must be cleaned using chemical spray on the front and then using a wet cloth to clean that off. This cannot go into the sink or a soak tank. One of the beauties, one of the real advantages of the XLT countertop is the entire conveyor can come out the front for cleaning. So we're going to do that now. We've removed the front panel. It really is as simple as grabbing the conveyor on each end, lifting slightly at the front, and then bringing the whole conveyor out of the oven to go off to the sink for cleaning. So now we've removed the conveyor. I'm still utilising the ops manual. we're going to start to remove what we call the fingers. The fingers is where the air is blasted from the top and the bottom into the product that goes through the conveyor. It's really important when we do put these back into place that we get that in the correct spot, and I'll show you how they can be. I will show you how they can be identified in a moment. So step number one, making sure the oven's not hot. Support the fingers, remove, there is a bar at the front here which does click outwards, so you click that out. The fingers can then drop, and you simply remove each finger individually from the oven. To the bottom fingers is exactly the same process. Again, make sure you support the fingers. You have the bar across the front. You simply slide that out, and then the fingers will drop down in the oven. Simply remove the fingers off to the sink. So the fingers have got several parts to them. They simply slide apart, the top cover. Inside the finger is a second part. It unclips from one side and it has tabs on the other side. So you simply lift from the side and remove that panel. Each panel has an identification on it. This one has LL and UR. So that means that the same panel is used in the lower left of the oven and upper right of the oven. So that panel must go into those two key locations. Now the fingers themselves have also got some key locations. We'll identify them again when we do reassembly, but we'll show you some of those markings. On the end, you can see some identification markings. It says lower left, and that must make sure it always goes to lower left. The fingers themselves have some angled air impingement holes that are in the oven. So that makes sure that air is diverted towards the product in the oven and air is not diverted out of the oven. It's critical that you get this right, otherwise the oven will not operate correctly. Now in this section of the video, we're going to go through cleaning. Now, depending on what products you cook and how busy your store is, depends on how often you may need to clean your piece of equipment and to what degree. Now we recommend that you do a daily clean of the whole exterior of the oven. We recommend that you would do an interior clean, a full clean of the interior approximately once a week. For those busier stores, you may be able to do that monthly if you indeed just have a lighter use. Okay, so now we're ready to clean the oven. We're going to use our approved oven cleaner. Now do remember that this oven cannot be hosed out, or we cannot use a wet cleaning system. So we're going to use a spray bottle with our approved oven cleaner, and we're going to use a moist towel, cloth, and also a dryer towel as well. Let's start with just spraying all of those soil components with the oven cleaner. Now once that's sat for about 5 minutes, and you can now get with your warm soapy water, with your two cloths, and then you can clean the oven. Again, make sure you wring your cloth out correctly. You cannot use a hose or a wet wash system with these ovens. Just now going to dry the oven off. Go to the sink, finish cleaning off the rest of our parts, making sure we also do the door as well. That can't go into the sink. We'll also use the spray with the oven cleaner, leave that for 5 minutes, and then we'll clean that off as well. Okay, so we do have two parts that do remain in the oven, and they are critical for airflow. So this clips into the top of the fingers. There's also the one on the lower area that stays in place. When you are cleaning, just be careful that you don't cut yourself with those at all. They're critical for airflow, and they make the operation of the oven far better. In this section, we've now cleaned the oven, and of course we need to reassemble it. It's critical we get this step correctly, particularly those fingers. We'll go through exactly the locations of the fingers in the oven. They have to be put back in those exact locations, otherwise your oven will not operate correctly. So let's get into the reassembly. Now, reassembling the fingers, simply slide the culminating panel into the one side of the panel, into the one side of the finger housing, and then clip the other side on. We're now going to slide the top panel, the air impingement panel, onto the finger before we put it back into the oven. Okay, so we're just going to put the fingers back in. That's lower left. We're going to put it in the lower left. It's a good idea to start with the top lip of the finger, put it on there first, and then we'll hold it and drop it in place. Now, because we have to click this rail back into place with the two fingers, we need to make sure we have both of them in place before we finalise the installation. Let's put them in. There we go. Locking the fingers in, make sure you hold the little opening, the little tab will slot into. Hold them both at the right level and lock them in place. Now remember this little tab that was in the oven? That needs to be clicked into place. That'll help with airflow. Now I'm going to put the top fingers in the upper right. And upper left. Okay, upper right. Just going to hold these tabs to make sure they align and lock them in place. Nice and firm. Now going to lock this top panel in place. So the next section is the conveyor. Exactly the same as how it came out. Have some guides there to help take the conveyor into the right position. We need to ensure that the sprocket is fully engaged on the conveyor. Now time to put the front door on. Remember, this can't be soaked overnight or put in a soak tank. So with the thumb screws, make sure they're not too tight. They're just firm, but not cranked all the way in. We're now going to put the cool skin door on. It's been to the sink, been washed. Place it over the thumb screws at the top, slide it down, lock it in place at the sides. Just going to put the crumb tray back in. There is a slide here for it. Slide along, lift, drop down in place. It will lock on this end of the conveyor. Hand stop on the exit side of the oven. Fix into place. That'll also hold the crumb tray in place. One of the other critical things with the oven is making sure that we have preventative maintenance. Now we recommend at least once a year that the technician comes out, they remove the back of the oven and they basically make sure that things like thermocouples and fans, etc., and areas that you haven't got access to are cleaned and maintained correctly. Now with preventative maintenance, there is a cost involved, but the downtime of your oven will cost you a lot more than the preventative maintenance themselves. So do make contact with J.L.Lennard, sign up preventative maintenance program. We have some set costs for those, and we can organise preventive maintenance on an annual basis for your 1620 countertop. So the 1620 countertop has a fantastic warranty. It's 2 years parts and labour. Now you make contact with us through the 1-800 numbers that we've given you. So 1-800-777-440 will contact your local service department and we can make sure we come out for any warranty calls that you may have. Now you do need to make sure that you follow the cleaning procedures that this went through and use the operator's manual. If you don't follow the operator's manual correctly, you may have some issues that may not be covered by warranty. So please follow that and you won't have any issues at all with your 1620 countertop oven.